Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rush Hour podcast. It's hosted by myself, Kamal and Jay Park. We're back at it again. Jay, NBA season's right around the corner, man. How are you feeling?
Excited, man. I mean, it's usually we would be playing, into the third or fourth week of the new NBA regular season, but because of how 2020 went, we have to wait another month and maybe 5 more weeks before we get to see the players back in the court.
Yeah, it just feels that this offseason has been flying by like nothing. Is it me or is it just do you have a sense that when we match our day-to-day calendars to the NBA calendar, we feel like time goes either slow or fast? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, just being huge ball fans, it's like, you know, there's a certain void. So either, if you're able to fill it with something else, then, great. But if not, then, it definitely feels like usually at night, like, those games would be a good like 2, 3, 4 hours of entertainment. But you'd have to find another way. Otherwise, time feels like, it's moving slower than usual.
Yeah, exactly. So the NBA and NBA Players Association came to an agreement as of earlier this week that the NBA has made a set date for December 22nd for games to start, mainly due to they don't want to lose any revenue for Christmas. They scrapped the idea of playing in January completely, mainly because they could lose revenue up to 500 million, and some even say it could be an actual billion if they start on Martin Luther King Day, which is January the 18th. This is pretty breaking
Right.
news. Yeah, and so it looks like we have NBA around the corner, man. We're just days away. LeBron James actually reacted to this immediately, right after Danny Green took to his podcast that he first said that most Laker players aren't going to actually come back in December. But then, as soon as things became official, he actually backed down on that, and he said that he's going to be ready to go. But just looking at a player like LeBron James, who's this is crazy to say, but he's in his 18th season of his NBA career, and this is going to be historically the shortest offseason in NBA history. What's your thoughts on that? And do you think that veteran players like LeBron, Jimmy Butler, players that actually played in the 2020 NBA Finals, which was literally less than 2 months ago, uh, are they going to be ready for this December 22nd date? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are taking into account or not thinking about the fact that a lot of these players had like, additional 3, 4, 5 months off of a
Exactly. Yeah.
break before the regular season presumed. So a lot of these players, especially the younger players, technically, if you ask some of them, like if you ask Jason Tatum or if you ask John Morant, these guys have been on public sports shows on saying that, when asked the question that did it feel like, you're continuing your rookie season or your second season or your third season to NBA, or did it feel like you got like, a fair amount of time off and it feels like you started a new season? And a lot of those guys were saying that, it felt like I'm coming into my second year, I'm coming into another year
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
that break in time was significant. So
Exactly.
these
Yeah.
guys, like, they should be more than ready to come back. I mean, my biggest thing is like, yeah, LeBron James, like, he's 35 right now, but he's going to be 36 before the year's end. The guy has a late birthday. So technically, he'll be 36 playing in his 18th
In his 18th
season in the
season. Yeah.
NBA. And the
That's
thing is,
remarkable.
though, it is remarkable. Like, he's probably the definition of Iron Man. But, for me, I think because of the dedication that he has to his body and spending, $1 or $2 million every year on maintaining, his overall conditioning, he should be more than ready, especially, if he gets a good enough team that can be, classified as a serious contender again, because he knows that. See, LeBron, I think his biggest thing is like he's all about legacy now. He's not about stats or he's not about popularity. He's about leaving a legacy behind because that's what the goat discussion is all about, and that's probably the only thing that this guy cares about at this moment because he's already done everything else. He's already won MVP. He's won rings. He's been probably an all-star for every year that he's been in the NBA. Like, so
I
for
know.
me,
I know Skip
I think he
Bayless.
should be winning ready.
Skip Bayless likes to toss around that Michael Jordan played 82 games for 10 years, and LeBron and this generation is soft and they want to load manage. It just shows to you that this new generation is taking their health to a whole nother level. But just to go further on the shortest NBA history in all time, it's actually the shortest. It's going to be the shortest off season in all five major sports, considering in North America. So NBA, NHL, MLB, and NFL. So out of the four shortest off seasons out of all those organizations, sports organizations, and the NHL has the record for 104 days off twice, which is 99 to 2000, and then 95 to 96. And then the next shortest one is going to be the NHL also, the 2012 to 2013 season. And then this it's going to be this NBA season, which is 71 days. It just shows you that huge difference. It's actually ridiculous. But the players actually made a decision, and they don't want to miss out on that revenue. They trying to get all their paychecks cashed in on time. And if LeBron wants to rest for the first day, then he has the right to do that if he wants to. But
Yeah,
he
and I'm
just has to
and
keep
I'm
in mind
sure
it's not
and
healthy
I'm
for the
sure
league.
that these teams, they're gonna make sure that they take into the new the new season regular season schedule into account for like practice, film sessions and so on and so forth, so that these guys are not completely exhausted by the regular season game schedule. If regardless if they have many back-to-back nights or 3 games in 4 nights or 4 games in 5 nights, those are probably bound to happen. But again, these are things that's been in existence before. But given the fact that today a lot of things are in advanced stages compared to NBA in 2000 or NBA in the 90s or the 80s, with technology, science, and medicine, and treatment. I'm sure that a lot of these players, they might not be fans of it, but I think once they get back into the flow of things, they'll be happier playing ball rather than sitting at home and not playing the
Yeah,
sport that they love to do and love to get paid for it.
yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, it's just that specific, specifically the players that were in the bubble that spent the longest time. So I believe most of the players should be ready to go, and there's no excuses. I think the only main excuse that they
Yeah,
may
I
be
mean,
concerned about is this the pandemic that's been going on. So the league has been talking about, are they gonna have fans back? Are they gonna have 20% of fans back, 25% of fans back? I guess it all depends on wherever that NBA city is and what the state allows for, and they'll work
like
closely with the NBA.
we're talking about like LeBron, but like there's a lot of other big names that if you were to ask them like, yo, you guys ready to start December 22nd? They'll be like, hell yeah. Like if you ask like KD, you ask like John Wall, Trey Young, Steph, Clay Thompson, like all these other big names, like they're ready to go because they had that extra time off. It's just like you're saying, like guys who's played deep into the months of September and October with the playoffs, specifically the Lakers and other teams who's made it to at least conference finals, that may feel that added toll of fatigue. But at the same time, I mean, this is what you get paid to do, right? I mean, these guys, a lot of those guys, you play 2 games, you get $1 million. Like I don't know what other job that's out there where you show up for your shift 2 times and you get paid $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. And then just to build off on this new NBA date, so the NBA actually already took steps further to react to how they're going to proceed with NBA fans. So they sent a protocol to all NBA teams yesterday, and it's just pretty much a memo to all 30 teams that would like to have fans back. And so one of the protocol requirements says that so fans could be have to be within 30 feet of the court to register. Oh, and they also have to do rapid testing, and they have to register negative 2 days prior to the game. And the rapid testing has to be valid in order for them to get tickets. So it just goes to show you that the NBA is really, and I guess the NBA for the NBA it's a lot harder than for NFL, for example, where players play outdoor. This one's it's a lot more complicated because they play indoor. And I also read here that they planning on having fans on the court as well. So courtside seats are going to be back, but obviously it's going to be 30 feet away. So that's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think NBA for sure, they're trying to do like what the MLB and the NFL have done recently, where they at least have some fans there rather than no fans, right? I mean, I know the NBA, they tried the whole virtual fan experience with the bubble, but that's not the same as having actual fans. Actual fans cheering and booing to have the effect on the players and the team, as well as money. I'm sure a lot of people will pay more money to be in person watching it live than like you're at home watching it and just having your face shown on another TV. I
Yeah, I
understand
agree.
like some people didn't mind that, but it's not the same. At the end of the day, like you're still at home. You're not live in the arena watching them, right? So I think it's a win-win for both the fans and the NBA.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge difference than being on a random screen in a bubble, waving and lagging all over the place, than being on the actual court. So that's going to be quite interesting. But do you think tickets will be more expensive than usual, or are they going to be quite the same, or are they going to be a lot cheaper? Mainly because it's a pandemic and whatnot. How do you think that's
I
going to affect
think
ticket pricing?
I think it'll depend on where the seats are. I think courtside seats will still be relatively expensive. But if let's say like you're in the nosebleeds and like you say you can literally touch the ceiling. I
Yeah,
think those seats will probably be cheaper than they are usually. But for I think the closer you are to the court, it may still be either. I think the prices will either be almost the same as they were before the pandemic, or they might be a little cheaper. But for seats that are like courtside or close to courtside, I think they'll still be relatively expensive.
I see. I believe so too. Especially just based off how the players played in the bubble, the level of competitiveness was beyond what everyone's expectations. So I think those courtside seats are going to be quite the money grab, and people are going to actually pay that to see the quality that they saw in the NBA bubble. But just to continue off of the NBA start date, so the set date is December 22nd. Obviously, main goal was not to miss Christmas. There's gonna be a huge lineup for Christmas games, but so as a result of all this, NBA free agency is now gonna be November 20th at 6 p.m. And but all signings won't take place up until the new afternoon of November 22nd, which leaves the NBA draft to be on the 18th. So essentially, negotiations could start on the 20th, but no signings will be till the 22nd, which is 2 days later. So that gives all the NBA teams quite some time to actually analyze their roster up until December 22nd, when the free agency is going to start. But just to bounce back off of the Lakers and their championship run in 2020, or NBA bubble championships as we call it, uh, Anthony Davis. So he joined the Los Angeles Lakers off a huge blockbuster trade from the New Orleans Pelicans, and he just opted out of his, or he's planning on opting out of his player option. But what do you see for AD with the Los Angeles Lakers, and do you think that he's actually with LeBron, and he's going to be there for the long haul up until LeBron retires? Going to pick up a couple rings with him, or is he going to pull? Is he going to pull something? Like, is he going to leave them high and dry, as as KD or Kawhi did for the Raptors? What do you think AD is gonna do?
Yeah, so I think AD will stick around in the Lakers uniform as long as LeBron is. So I'm not sure if AD will, like, for sure he's coming back for another season. Like for sure he'll be in Lakers uniform for the full season that's going to start on December 22nd. That's no question about that. But in terms of his actual contract structure, um, I think he could do things like what LeBron did in the past, which is either like a one and one where he signs fully guaranteed with the organization for 1 year, and then he has a player option the next year. Um, I think LeBron and AD, because they share the same agent and they obviously are really close now, they probably had conversations regarding the timeline of what moves that they maybe want to make in terms of either staying with the Lakers organization or maybe joining forces on another team. But because it is the Los Angeles Lakers, because it is Los Angeles, and because it is the Lakers, like
It
it's
is, Malibu, Santa Monica, hot weather.
yeah,
You
like
gotta
I
take
don't
all
think
that
that
into
they
consideration.
yeah, I don't think that they're gonna leave. I honestly think both LeBron and AD will remain a Laker, uh, at least until LeBron retires. I honestly can't see LeBron in another uniform because now that he's in Lakers, he's with the Lakers. He's won the chip. He has Laker Nation behind him. He knows what California is like. I can't see that. Like AD, obviously next season he'll return, but in terms of how long he'll be there, I would think that he'll either sign a short, like maybe a one and one, or maybe a 2-and-1, or he'll sign the max that he can qualify for. So that's what I end up seeing, but I definitely don't see him even thinking about another team right now.
I think out of those two options that you laid down, I think he'll possibly go with a 2-and-1 or a 1-and-1. Me seeing AD signed for the max 4 year, whatever, how many millions that is, I think those are slightly narrow chances, mainly because we don't know what the Lakers are gonna do after LeBron's contract ends. So LeBron has 1 year left this upcoming season, plus a player option in the 2022 season for 41 million. So my question is, do you think LeBron's gonna pick up that player option of 41 million, or is he gonna opt out of it and try to renegotiate a bigger contract toward his twilight seasons? As soon as he's touching those 40 ranges and waiting for his son Bronny to get drafted. What do you think LeBron's gonna do?
Yeah, so I think LeBron is probably the only player ever
That can play
to
to 40 at a
not
high
only
pace,
that, yeah, not only that, but like actually have the leverage at this point of his career. Like you
especially
can't
after
really
winning that
say,
championship. Yeah,
yeah, you can't really say anyone else who's playing into their 18th season and they're 36, they're going to be 36 years of age, and having superior leverage on getting whatever contract that he or she desires. Like LeBron, it would honestly not be a bad decision if he picks up that player option, but because he does want to play longer, I think he definitely will probably look for an extension or a renegotiated deal because I think one thing that he's not said in public, but he probably is thinking about it a lot, is he wants to play in the league for, I think, a minimum of 20 years. So he has 18 years starting December 22nd, but I think he wants to play a minimum of 20. One of the reasons why is because there's only been so many players who've played that long. Like I think Kobe and like Vince are like
Kobe,
maybe the only two.
Vince, did
Like I
Dirk.
can't think of anybody else. Yeah, I can't really think of too many other people who played 20 seasons in the NBA
I
and still
honestly,
mattered.
I honestly think he has a bigger goal than just 20. I think he wants to catch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and being the highest leading scorer. The chances for that, I'm not quite sure what they are, but it's going to be tough, especially with the short season that happened last season as well as this upcoming season. Hey man, they're playing 72 games next season, but those are a lot of games, man. LeBron could pick up a few points and catch up with Kareem.
Yeah, so I mean, currently I think LeBron's like third all time, and he still has like a little over 4,000 points to catch Kareem. And so, I mean, if we do the simple math, typically if you uh, average, let's say 25 points a game over 82 games, but he's not going to play the full 82. So let's say he plays like 75. So if you average 25 points for 75, then that's close to like 1900 points. So if you do 1900 points over 4 years, let's just say 4 years,
And mind
then
you,
that would
he's
beat him.
with
That
him
would beat
being
him. So
with him being healthy.
with him being healthy. So, but for sure, no matter what, LeBron would need to play 3 more years uh, to surpass Kareem. If he plays just 2 more years, and that's two including this season, he would have to average close to 30 points or more and play almost every game to have a chance on overtaking Kareem. But if he plays 3 seasons, he's almost guaranteed like 99% to have that record all to himself.
Yeah, I see. So sticking with NBA free agency, but specifically with the Lakers. Avery Bradley, a player that opted not to join the Lakers in the bubble. On paper, he technically is an NBA champion, but we're not quite sure what the Lakers teammates' reaction to Avery Bradley not being there. So Danny Green on his podcast Inside the Green Room, he mentioned to his co-host that players like DeMarcus Cousins that got waived off the team and Troy Daniels that got cut off the team to try to get another team, that the both of them deserve to receive a ring with the Lakers. But he didn't mention Avery Bradley at all. Well, do you think that Lakers players are kind of salty that Avery Bradley didn't join them in the bubble, or what's going on here? Is this a some Los Angeles
Nah,
drama?
I don't. Yeah, I think it's just minor drama. I don't think the players, the other Laker players who were actually there in the bubble, are holding grudges against Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley had a very valid reason, with his family and his son having that, condition where it would have been a high risk to go to the bubble in case like there would been in case there would have been a potential breakout, an outbreak. But although there's been zero cases in the bubble, which was phenomenal. Just Avery Bradley didn't want to take that risk, and the fact that he didn't know exactly when his family can join him, because if you remember, like I don't think that the NBA allowed personal confidants or family for like the first few weeks. So I think that's just a risk that Avery Bradley didn't want to take. And I think a lot of the other players respected that. I mean, they still got the job done without him. So kudos to the Lakers. But that's because, other players like KCP and Rondo stepped up big. But no, I think the Lakers knew like if they had, no pandemic and it was just another regular season, that Avery Bradley would have played as many games as they needed him to.
So is this a coincidence that Avery Bradley, as of today, actually, he's signing with a new agent, with Charles Briscoe, and he's in the position right now to evaluate whether he's gonna pick up his 5 million player option or he's gonna decline it and enter free agency. Do you think that his value is gonna rise with not being in the bubble, or is it just gonna be the same, or should he just stick to the 5 million and become a Laker for this upcoming season to try to raise his
Yeah,
value?
it's it's honestly, it'll be up to him because he's in a great situation where they just won the chip, and he could play a pivotal role in the repeat campaign. But it's up to him. If he wants more money, he could probably get more money, but he's looking at maybe another one, two, three, four, five extra million at the most. Like this guy's not, a 15, 20 mil, 25, 30 mil type player. He never was that, but he can get a little bit more money into it, like a team that's maybe not as strong and as together and as proven as the Lakers are. But again, would you want to leave LA and go to a team like Charlotte, or go to like the Knicks and maybe get 3 million, 4 million more, play a little bit more minutes, but then you're not playing for anything, right? So it's essentially, what does Avery Bradley want to play for? My personal advice, if I ever knew the guy, would be for one more year, just stick with the Lakers. Like because it won't hurt his value. If anything, it'll raise his value. Like you won't ever lose value because you're playing, 10, 15 minutes a game with the Lakers, but they're winning. And when they need you to play down the stretch, you're playing down the stretch and you're playing well. You get key defensive stops. A lot of teams are going to value that. So, like I think you don't lose if you stay with the Lakers.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, playing with the Los Angeles Lakers, it's a win-win. Honestly, like there's a lot of players in this league that could possibly take a pay cut to even get a historical run with LeBron James, AD, and just the Los Angeles Lakers in general. But not to shy away from the Lakers, but this is probably our last Laker topic for today. So Kevin O'Connor of the Ringer Network reported that the Lakers are actually interested in trading Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma for DeMar DeRozan, your buddy DeMar DeRozan, the 3 point assassin, the 3 point bricklayer. What's your thoughts on that? Is that good for the Lakers? Is that good for the Spurs? Is that good for DeMar? DeMar got cut by the Raptors by the legendary Masai Ujiri. He pulled the trigger. He told him, "Hey, boy, you got to get out of here." And what do you think the Lakers should the Lakers pull this move, especially after how Danny Green appeared towards that NBA bubble stretch?
Yeah, so
Uh,
I'm gonna look at it
Actually,
from the Spurs perspective.
let me give my thoughts on this first because I know you're not a
Okay.
huge Demar guy. I already know your answer, but me personally, do you remember? I believe before LeBron signed with the Lakers, there were rumors that before Demar signed his contract extension with the Raptors, the Lakers were actually front runners to signing him. So it looks like they're always having ties with his with DeMar DeRozan, and I personally think that it's a good deal for DeMar to go with the Lakers, but DeMar has to keep in mind that he's not going to get. I don't think the Lakers are going to pay him as much as any other team like a Charlotte Hornets could pay him. There is going to be a significant pay cut if he joins the Lakers, especially because LeBron wants to get shooters around him, and Demar ain't no goddamn shooter. You know that. So I think it's a good trade for the Lakers. It's a good deal for Demar, but Demar's gonna have to accept that pay cut. Yeah,
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I'll look at it from the Lakers perspective, the Spurs perspective, as well as the Rosen's perspective. So if we start with the Spurs, the only reason why that they'll do this is because it hasn't worked out to what they would expect, meaning that they would feel or they would have felt that DeRozan fell short of their expectations on how he could maybe propel the Spurs into the playoffs and maybe making a little bit of a run. Obviously, not being a serious title contender, but at least giving him a little juice. But that didn't
but
happen.
but in Demar's case, we gotta take into consideration that LaMarcus Aldridge was injured, so it wasn't entirely. I don't think Demar deserves the entire blame.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve the entire blame. But like, it's just even when they were healthy, that's the thing. Like even when they were healthy, would we ever classify the Spurs as a top four team in the West? Probably not, right?
Probably
Probably
not.
not.
Yeah,
So, and for me,
not like the old boys.
and the thing is with the Spurs, they would want to do this because they probably want to shed his salary, right? If they're one of these teams always that they would rather have a lot of like maybe low value players in terms of what they're making on their salary payroll versus like a few guys that are earning big bucks, right? So, and DeRozan is not really a guy that should be earning the biggest of dollars because the biggest of dollars are supposed to go to the league's best players or the superstars of the game, and he's not really any of those. I mean, he is an all-star, but he's not. We can't put him in the same plateau or the same level with like LeBron, KD, AD, a lot of these other guys. So that's why the Spurs would do it. The Lakers would do it because they know that DeMar will probably try to play better than he's done, recently with the Spurs because he's back home, he's in Cali, he's representing the Lakers, he's playing with two of the top five best players on the planet. He wants to win. He knows he has a chance to win. And I'm sure guys like LeBron and AD will be able to get through to him and say, like, yo, if we need you to start shooting more threes, you're going to shoot a lot more threes. If not, like, we going to get you out of here or like we're going to damage the F out of your name. Like, you came here for a reason. We wanted you here for a reason. Let's make this work. And I'm sure if that's the case, like DeMar will probably adapt and we'll probably see an increase in his 3-point attempts. So
especially
that's why
with
the Lakers would do it.
especially with Jason Kidd on their coaching staff roster. He's a
Yeah,
player. He's a player that started off in the league not shooting threes, and he ended up being a an average or above average shooter. So
yeah,
he could help him run.
he could for sure help him out because Jason Kidd, for the majority of his career, especially like during his prime years, like he was maybe a walking triple double, but like he was known to play make and facilitate the offense and get a lot of their players involved and have a high efficient offense scheme and game plan night in and night out. But towards the end of his career, especially when he won his championship with the Dallas Mavericks, he wasn't that same guy. So a lot of these older players, like Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, a lot of the other guys, they stuck around in the league by maintaining value of the fact that they're a veteran and the fact that they could defend somewhat, and most importantly, they could make threes. Right. So Jason Kidd, I think he's like top five in threes made, like in the history and NBA history, which is huge for a guy that wasn't known as a shooter. So yeah, for sure he could help. He could help out Demar. And so for me, for Demar's perspective, this would be, I would say his last chance on making the league uh, re-examine his overall value for teams that maybe be looking for a star. Like this is his last showcase if he were to join the Lakers. If he fails, I think a lot of other teams will pass on him in terms of offering him anything more than 20 mil a year. Like I don't think he'll ever touch that type of money if he doesn't show up and play
Yeah,
well
not
with the Lakers.
not at this point in his career. I think he got his money, and I'm not sure if any contending team is gonna invest in Demar that much.
Yeah, so I think, but for me, in terms of fit, the only way that this will work is if Demar promise and he will actually show that he will make and take, take and make a lot more threes and a lot more jumpers, on the perimeter, because that's what LeBron and AD needs. Like they already dominate the post, like, and they're better post players than
Yeah,
Demar.
they need that
So
spacing down there. Yeah.
so that's my take on the whole Demar to Lakers possibility.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. What's gonna happen within this upcoming week? It's gonna be quite interesting. I'm actually excited for Demar, and I hope this. I hope this happens. But just moving on to more crazy NBA trade rumors. So Westbrook reported, well, actually not Westbrook, but Shams Charania of the Athletic reported that Russell Westbrook wants out of Houston. That's that's pretty mind blowing if you ask me. So Westbrook landed in Houston off of that Chris Paul trade, and the whole NBA was saying, "Oh, Westbrook is reuniting with his LA homeboy. These guys, whatever, grew up together, this and that." And it looks like James Harden and Russ Westbrook aren't getting along. Westbrook clearly wants to be the main ball handler, even though he just turned 32 as of yesterday. What do you think Westbrook, or actually why Westbrook did that? And where do you think that the Rockets could potentially trade Russ Westbrook?
Yeah, so clearly, it was an all-in move that the Rockets did this past season. Trading away Clint Capella to the Hawks, and bringing in Westbrook and playing literally micro ball. With their what would be like a small forward in most other teams, traditional teams. Robert Covington doing jump ball every game. Like that's to me it's not your traditional team structure, but they went away from it because they thought it would work and it could potentially win games and maybe make a deep run into the playoffs, but they fell short. And this is a reoccurring thing with the Houston Rockets, where every year we know that they're going to win a bunch of games in the regular season, they're going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to make it far. And because of that, I think there's this stigma and there's this uh, unfriendly, like bad odor scent about the Rockets organization, especially with James Harden. That what, they're just a good regular season team. They not gonna do anything in the playoffs. It's kind of like the Phoenix Suns of like the 2000s with Steve Nash and Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire and those guys. They fun to watch. They fast paced. They're gonna win a bunch of games in regular season, but in the playoffs, man, they not doing anything. So Harden, I think he knows that he's not getting any younger and he can't play at this high level forever. So he realizes that his window is closing. And
So
with
just to build off of on that, are you saying that James Harden was the main decision, the main reason why it led Westbrook to take that decision, or it was a mutual decision?
I believe it was either a mutual decision that they part ways, or I think Westbrook wanted to leave more because of Harden. So as much as that they may be friends in real life, they've known each other for a long time, this and that. On the court,
It's a
it's just
different ball game. Yeah.
it's a different ball game. So that's why for me, I think Westbrook wanting to move on and get traded from the Rockets to somewhere else is a sign that maybe, you know, Harden is the problem. Um, because if you look at it, he's had other great players. Like he's had Dwight Howard, who was able to still produce in the Rockets uniform. He's had and he still has, you know, Eric Gordon. He's he's had Chris Paul, and now he's had Russell Westbrook. And it's like, you know, there's no real playoff success to show for it. You know, there's still no conference finals. There's still no NBA finals, and there's no championship, obviously, because you never even got past the conference finals. So for me, I think like what I've been hearing recently is that the Rockets, if I were the Rockets, I'd just blow that up. I blow it up and be like, okay, let's build
I
for
see.
I
See,
would build something for the future, because you know what, like what we tried for many years and it hasn't worked out. So why not try to build something better for the future, and that's going to save us a lot of money
so
in the long run,
you're
right?
saying, so you're saying trade Westbrook and get rid of Harden as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Because
That was
my
actually
thing is,
my follow up question because Kendrick Perkins, who's a Houston native, he said on First Take today that, you know what, Brody wants out. You know what, Mike D'Antoni quit before he got fired, and he joined the Brooklyn Nets to be a right hand man for Steve Nash. At this point, even Mike D'Antoni saw that there's no hope for this franchise. So Kendrick Perkins was like, you know what, blow it all up, man. Get rid of Harden, get rid of Westbrook, try to get as much value in trade assets and trade picks for the future, and just start from scratch. They already got a
yeah,
new GM in there.
yeah, because and a new coach. And the thing is, like, you
Yep.
have to start thinking for your organization, then thinking about your players and James Harden and Westbrook. Like, you, at the end of the day, like, you're a business. You have to make sure you're going to be running a good business, you know, foreseeable future, and hopefully for the long term for you to be successful. And right now, you know, there's really nothing in the next few years that we could say, oh, the Rockets are going to win a chip, or the Rockets are going to have great young players that they're going to develop into all stars. We can't say any of those things about the Rockets, meaning that they're not a successfully run team right now. So that's why I would think that, you know what, Westbrook wanting out is a sign that that system is not going to work forever. And that system is not going to work for them to win a chip. And with Westbrook, I think Westbrook should join a team where he's going to be a second best player, maybe a potentially third best player, but he cannot be the primary
Not to
best player on
not
a team.
not to cut you off, but I don't think that any of the players, any organizations that Westbrook is going to be the best, are actually gonna make offers for him.
Yeah, no,
I
you're
don't.
right. You're right.
So if Westbrook does get traded, I honestly see him going to teams like the Charlotte Hornets. They could send a package. The New York Knicks could send a package. I just don't see any of the contending teams making that decision and investing in Westbrook, especially because he has one of the worst contracts this season. He's owed 41 million this upcoming season, 44 million the season after, and 47 million in 2023 when he's going to be 34 years old.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, he would have to go to a team that is relevant or uh, proven, but has that salary space available or can make a trade work. So potentially, and just, you know, just potentially, it could be a team like
Detroit,
nah, I don't see Detroit, but I would say maybe just, you know, just speculating, maybe Philadelphia, right? Maybe Philadelphia, because we know that the Simmons and Embiid experiment hasn't really worked out the last few years. You know, yeah, a lot of that has to do with injury, and a lot of that has to do with team structure. But
so you're saying the
we,
Sixers could have two injury prone guys on their squad if they decide to go with Westbrook.
no, I think, well, but again, but the thing is, like, maybe a change in scenery is all that these players need, right? Like, that's, we've seen that happen with a lot of recent players. Like, let's say with Jimmy Butler going from Minnesota to Miami, look what happened. we've seen Victor Oladipo, joining Indiana, and look what happened when he joined Indiana. We've seen what happened when James Harden left OKC to go to Houston. Maybe sometimes all it needs for them is just to be in a different environment, be with a different team, and we can see what it does to them. Until then we don't know. But I think, yeah, Westbrook wanting to get out, yeah, he should go out and maybe join the team that can also contend, but he'll be second fiddle, and hopefully he'll be able to contribute in a big way. Rockets, I would say, yeah, find some place that would take Harden, and you could get a lot of assets back and rebuild. And Harden, I would say that he also joins a relevant team or a contending team, because both those guys, former MVPs, I would say not former, but still right now they're probably superstars of the game that could still get it done. It's just they just haven't found the right match
I can't re-
to win big.
I can't remember the last NBA team that released two superstars which are more or less in or towards the end of their prime in one in the same season. My nearest
Yeah,
memory is probably the Boston Celtics when they got rid of Paul Pierce and Kevin
and
Garnett.
KG.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you saw what the return for that was. The Brooklyn Nets got destroyed for years after that, till this day. I
yeah.
mean,
To this day,
Jason
to this
Jason
day.
Jason Tatum was one of the draft picks from Paul Pierce trade. Like, it's actually ridiculous. So
Yeah,
do you think a team could? But that's the thing. There's no team that's gonna offer them both because they clearly don't want to play together. So it's gonna have to be either a three-way team deal, or two separate teams completely, which is gonna be insane. Especially if Harden decides to leave, or the Houston makes the decision for him.
yeah. But I'm gonna almost be so confident in that Westbrook's going to be wearing a different uniform when we start
Oh
the
yeah,
regular season.
that's for sure. I believe so. All right, so moving on to more trade rumors. So Victor Oladipo of the Indiana Pacers. Uh, so there was reports that Oladipo was actually in the NBA bubble. So this one of the main sources for this was Michael of the Indiana Star. Apparently Oladipo was playing against the Toronto Raptors, and he spoke to some of the Raptors players, and he mentioned, "Hey, I'd like to play with you guys," in front of the Pacers teammates. And he also said the same thing towards the Knicks. So mainly the Knicks and the Raptors. So if this is actually true, like, is do you think that this was actually heard mainly because the arena is empty and Oladipo wasn't he wasn't precautious enough? And what do you think Oladipo's gonna do this off season if he does decide to leave the Pacers?
I think that Pacers would rather keep Oladipo than moving on without him. But if I'm Victor Oladipo, if I can't get my money with the Pacers, I would be wanting to look somewhere else. And that's because if you don't get that money from the Pacers, clearly the Pacers don't value you as much as maybe they have said to you and verbally. So that level of trust might have been lost in transition from when he was recovering from his injury and coming back to the course, for the playoff run that they had in the bubble. Oladipo, if I were him, I would want to join up forces with a top four team from this previous season, either in the West or in the East, because I believe that he still has something to prove. I mean, he's already shown that he's an all-star caliber talent, but we have yet to see him win. And because of that, and I know he's a winner, he wants to win. Is no surprise to me that he asked the Raptors, if he can play with them. Anyway, it is a surprise to me he did that way. But to me, let's just say hypothetically somehow the Raptors get Oladipo, that'd be a plus. That'd be a big plus for the Raptors, because you would probably be getting an undervalued all-star talent who would more than likely play well with the Raptors' treatment and their staff and their game plan and their coaching staff and the other players that they have around them. Um, you know, Oladipo would probably be the second best player on the team, next to whoever has the better season, either that's Lowry
So
or Siakam.
So you're saying, I think you're a little bit making assumptions here. So you're saying he'd be a good fit with the Raptors with the current squad? Because as of right now, Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry are still the backcourt for the Raptors. Do you think that
Yeah, but
what
they
they
play different roles though, right? Like they're both essentially point guards,
so,
whereas
so one of
Victor
them is
Oladipo can play.
so one of
Yeah,
them is
but
gonna come off the bench.
Victor Oladipo can either play shooting guard or the small forward. So essentially, I mean, if Nick Nurse wants to do this, he could
That's
have
true. He plays some
yeah,
small forward with the Orlando Magic.
yeah, so he could have Lowry at the one, Van Vliet at the two, and Oladipo at the three, and he could have
So you're
C- C-
completely cutting off OG.
he no he could have OG at the four, and he could have Siakam at the five, right? Like that's a small ball lineup right there.
Uh,
And
assuming Marcus
and
Gasol is out of the Raptors, he's going to Barcelona, and I guess that's another Ibaka coming off the bench. I guess
yeah, and which Ibaka, he's cool with that.
I think that's a good segue into this next segment here for NBA trade rumors or free agency rumors. So Fred Van Vliet hopped onto one of our favorite fellow podcasters, JJ Reddick's The Old Man in the Three podcast, and he kept it real. He kept it real, man. He, when asked about his what he feels like he's gonna do with this free agency, he said, "Listen, man, I'm trying to get paid. I'm not shy about that. I don't have to tell people that I value winning. Just look at my story, do your research. I've been on a losing team. I've never been on a losing team my entire life. I'm an NBA championship, and now it's time to cash out." He's 26, and he feels like this is the iron is hot right now, and he needs to get paid. So, what do you think Fred VanVleet's offers are going to be like? Is Masai gonna give him the max, or is he gonna give him a little bit under the max, and that's gonna lead Fred VanVleet to joining some other non-contender team? I'm assuming the Knicks are offering him close to the max. I'm assuming the Charlotte Hornets are offering him, and I'm assuming the Detroit Pistons. It's funny that it's always the low contending teams that offer the max to average players or above average players.
Yeah, so I mean, first off, good for Freddie on wanting to get his money. I mean, it is overdue.
Can't even
He's
be mad at
definitely
that. Yeah,
yeah, he's definitely outplayed and outperformed his previous contract. But in terms of what offers he's going to be getting from the Raptors, he's not going to get the max. That's for sure. They're not. There's no way you're giving Fred VanVleet the max. I would say he's maybe a guy who's potentially worth between the 15 to 20, maybe 21, 22 mil type a year player. I don't see him getting, no one's going to offer him any less than what he was making in his previous deal. That just doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
So what he's looking for is probably a minimum of 20 plus per year for maybe, 4 or 5 years type thing. So to get that, I don't think that the Raptors would do that unless the Raptors are going in to fully invest in VanVleet becoming the point guard for the future and taking the baton from Lowry, but at a cost, obviously. And they're believing that VanVleet's going to be able to perform at a high level for the Raptors for that money, so that they get good value out of his contract. If it's not with the Raptors, then it wouldn't surprise me that he goes to a team with a whole lot of cap space just to maximize his money. Either that's in the likes of New York or Charlotte or any of these other teams that could potentially give him the type of money that he's want, so that he'll be happy. But at the end of the day, like it's Fred, what matters to you? Is it just all about dollars and cents, or do you care about where you're playing? Do you care about the fact that if they're winning or not? Do you care if they're a good organization or not? If it's just about the money, then join the Knicks. The Knicks have so much
yeah,
cap space; it's ridiculous right now. But obviously, you're going to get scrutinized. You're going to get a whole lot of media attention, and you're going to be on a bad team. You're never going to make the playoffs for at least the next 3 years. It's all about what matters. Like every contending team that's probably top four in each conference can't offer him the max, right? Lakers can't do it. Clippers can't do it. Nuggets can't do it. Uh, Jazz can't do it, right? It's you go to the East, Miami, they're not the type of team that will just offer max to a player like Freddie. Like no, like you'd have to be like a Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, or better than that to get the max from Miami. Milwaukee, they're probably not going to give you that because they would probably put him in the same level as maybe Eric Bledsoe or a Malcolm Brogdon type. And so to me, then it's you got the Celtics. They're not going to give him that. They already got Kemba. You go to Philly, they're not going to give him that. They already have Simmons. So it's just what matters. For him, I would say best thing is to get a good deal that works for both sides with the Raptors. I mean, that's just a no-brainer for me. Like that way, maybe when you're in Chinatown again, you can run into the guy.
Yeah, yeah. Man, Jay, I think honestly, this upcoming week is going to be one of the most exciting weeks, and especially with the NBA draft around the corner. Are we going to see LaMelo Ball as a first pick? Are we going to see if the Warriors are going to trade their second pick? There's a lot of questions to be asked, but at this point, it's just a waiting game, and we're just
Yeah.
gonna have to find out what's going to happen. But I'm looking forward to next week, and Jay, this is a great episode, and hopefully we'll be back at it, and we'll see what's going to happen this upcoming week.
As always, thank you for listening in, and thank you for all those people who've giving us the attention. We're just two guys who are just trying this out, and as always, we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks.